and started doing what I needed to do. I was having a wee. Halfway through, the door opened. There must have been 50 people who were bored, just stood and think, all now turning to watch me in the... I don't know about you, Lewis, but once I've started, I can't stop.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another British English conversation with me, Lewis, and my mate, Steve. So, Steve.
Hi, everybody.
How's life? How are you doing? How's life?
It's busy. It's hectic at the moment. Just had the Christmas holidays and the New Year, and it's visiting family and friends. You know how it is. How was your Christmas?
I mean, it was pretty good. I'm still back home in England at the moment. So I went to Seville for a few days before Christmas, then celebrated Christmas here at my mum and dad's house, where we had an amazing spread, lots and lots of Christmas delicacies, and I was stuffed every single day. I feel like I've put on maybe a stone since coming back. So now, honestly, I want to get back into the routine and I want to try to be healthier and wake up earlier because I feel like I'm letting myself go. I'm not taking care of myself over this Christmas and New Year period, but that's usually what happens this kind of year, right?
Absolutely. I'm very jealous about Seville. What's that like?
Seville is amazing. It's kind of like my home away from home. It's like my second home because it's where my fiance is from. And I used to live in Seville. And funnily enough, an interesting piece of information is that in Spain, they celebrate and give gifts on the 6th of January, which is the day of the Epiphany. And it's the day when the three wise men come bearing, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And usually for Spanish families, they will give gifts on the 6th of January rather than on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So for my fiance, she has like an endless Christmas period, which I think it's too long, to be honest.
Tomorrow's the day?
Exactly. Yeah. Finally, it's about time.
I'd love to visit there. That's on my list of places to visit, Seville. I've been around Spain, but I've never been there, and I always wanted to.
You should check it out. Maybe it could be one of your New Year's resolutions to go check out Seville. And on that note, I didn't ask you, how was your Christmas and New Year's? What did you get up to?
Busy, lots of visiting. New Year, I've got to be honest with you. It's a long time since I stayed up past midnight. So I think I was in bed at about 10:30, but then again, I am very old. But living so close to the River Mersey, which is the river that runs through Liverpool, it's a busy port. So at midnight on New Year's Eve, all the ships sound their horns, and that wakes you up and the fireworks go off. And so it's nice. But I woke up, listened to that, went back to bed again. That was my New Year's Eve.
Party hard.
Yeah. Did you make any resolutions?
Actually, quite a lot. And in recent videos with my mum and my last video as well, talking about my goals for 2026, I'm a little bit anal or obsessed with making New Year's resolutions, which I know many people say, what's the point? If you want to achieve something, why do you have to wait until January? Just do it today. But while I get what they're saying, I think it is nice to think about what you want to achieve and accomplish in any given year, and what better moment to do it than the 1st of January. So I'd like to run another marathon. I'd like to hit specific milestones on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, etc. I've recently developed an application as well, so I'd like to make that accessible.
I saw that. Very impressive.
Interesting for everybody. So I've got quite a lot of things that I would like to achieve, and I'm also getting married this year as well. So 2026 is going to be pretty full on. It's going to be pretty intense.
Congratulations, mate.
Thank you. How about you? Do you believe in New Year's resolutions or not?
2 years ago, I made my first New Year's resolution since I was a child. My New Year's resolution was I'm very conscious of my age. I'm getting to that age now where I'm very aware of, you know, m- I've got more behind me than in front of me. I'm aware of that. But my dad, it's his birthday in 2 weeks, and he's 100 in two
Oh,
weeks'
wow.
time. So, I've got a few years left yet. And so about 2 years ago, I decided that I was going to get fit enough to do 10 pull-ups, on a
Impressive.
bar like this.
I
And
can't even
so,
do 10 pull-ups.
and so anyone that follows me saw me post on the 1st of January, me doing one pull-up. Well, one and a half, like that. That was 2 years ago. The second day, I just forced two. I nearly killed myself. That was the end of my New Year's resolution. So no, I've New Year's resolutions and me. Ooh, we're enemies.
But do you ever set objectives or goals, for example, at the beginning of September? Because I know in particular, a lot of teachers, they consider the beginning of the year to be at the beginning of September because that's when the school year starts. And some people who maybe don't believe in New Year's resolutions will, however, set goals at the beginning of September. Do you do this or it's not for you either?
My year runs, strangely enough, from July, because it was in July 2 years ago, or 2 years ago, last July was when I started my YouTube channel. And so for YouTube resolutions, it works on that year. So I'm about 17, 18 months into my YouTube journey now. And I wanted in 2 years to have 50,000 subscribers, or by this stage to have 50,000 subscribers. And today I've gone through 58,000 subscribers. So I'm on course. By this time next year, it's got to be 100,000 because you get a nice shiny silver plaque and I'll put it on the wall.
Everybody wants that, right?
Yeah, why not?
You see, what would be beautiful and very romantic would be if we hit it the same month. And then we're like, high five.
Hey, don't marry her, marry me.
We're bound. We're bound together. But anyway, now let's get into the nitty gritty of today's topic because I don't know if any of our viewers checked out our last conversation, which was now maybe 6 weeks or 2 months ago. And we spoke about different British English slang, which I'm sure we'll do again as well. But towards the end, Steve mentioned a lovely place in North Yorkshire called Malham. And then from that, we were saying, maybe we should speak about other places in the United Kingdom and places that are maybe lesser known that people should come and visit if they come to the United Kingdom. Instead of just spending all of the time in London, they should go to Malham and other hidden gems. So, with that in mind, we're going to talk about some places in the United Kingdom that are maybe a little bit overrated and others which are a little bit underrated. So, let's kick off. Let's get the ball rolling. Steve, are there any places in the United Kingdom that, they're quite well known, but you're just not a fan of? You don't really like them.
Absolutely. Let me pick you up on something you've just said. And that was, you implied that people coming from other countries to the UK tend just to stay in London. And that's my experience as well. Like you, I teach people from countries all over the world. Quite often they'll say, I'm coming to the UK, or I've been to the UK. Where have you been? I've been to the capital, I've been to London.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it. I used to live there. I totally understand London. and its appeal. It's historic, it's got great sights, it's built for tourists, it really is. However, honestly, I genuinely think 3 to 4 days is enough. And that's as someone who's lived there. 3 to 4 days. On the first day, get on one of them double-decker buses that you see
Uh-huh.
behind me there, go on the top deck with a guide, and you'll get to see all the main things. You'll listen to all the history as you go past, and then use that for the rest of your visit to go and revisit those places in your own time. Get on the tube, the underground train, catch a bus, even walk. Lots of places are walkable. Go and see Buckingham Palace, go and see Big Ben. But after 4 days, waste your time there. Move out, get on a train, get on a bus, get on a plane. We've got EasyJet, which is a cheap airline. It will fly you around the country. So I would urge people, don't stay in London. Spread your wings and go and see other places. Would you agree with that?
No, I agree 100%. It's weird because I've got some students who maybe live in the United Kingdom and they live all over the place. I've got a student who lives in Dewsbury near me. I've got another one who lives in Nottingham. I've got another one who lives somewhere around Brighton as well. But usually for people who come for a little trip to the United Kingdom, they'll either go to London, which of course it's one of the best cities in the world. I've never lived in London before, but I do have friends who do, and they moved to London and they love it. They can't get enough of it. And whenever I go, which is maybe once every couple of years, I'll go for a long weekend, spend time with friends, have a wander around the city, going to different areas, different pubs in particular, and just, soaking it all up, absorbing all of that atmosphere. But that's what people usually do when maybe they should expand their options, broaden their horizons, and visit other places. And the other place that, in fact, is probably maybe the second most visited city in the United Kingdom is the capital of Scotland. It is Edinburgh. And I actually do like Edinburgh. I think it's beautiful. I think it's also a historical city. You've got a beach. You've got some nice hills, lots of great pubs, beautiful buildings. But before we started recording, Steve, you mentioned that you're not actually that keen on Edinburgh. How
No,
come?
this answers your first question that I just strayed from there. And it's places that people really think highly of, and I don't. And
What's your beef with Edinburgh?
right, it's really a couple of things. I don't know Scotland very well. I used to live and work in London, and sometimes they would send me to Scotland. They would fly me to Scotland, and someone would pick me up at the airport. They'd take me. I'd do whatever I had to do. They'd take me back to the airport, and I'd fly back to London. Um, so although I've been to Scotland many times, I've not actually seen Scotland. I saw the inside of airports. I saw the inside of hotels. I saw the inside of chauffeured cars. So a few years ago, just before the pandemic, a friend of mine who I used to work with invited me to come and stay with them in Scotland. I jumped
Mhm.
at the chance. They'd retired from what we did and become a lumberjack.
Oh, wow. That's unusual.
That's what I thought. So, someone who clears forests, cuts down trees. Now, I'll bet you've got an image in your mind of what this person looks like.
I imagine this person will be very muscly, a big beard, and of course, lumberjacks, they always wear the same checkered shirts. And yeah, I just imagine a big, masculine, loud guy. But I guess that's not the case.
Her name is Wendy. She's 5'2". She weighs nothing, and she's a lumberjack. She
As you
maintains a
do.
forest. So She lives in a lovely little town in Scotland. I jumped at the chance to go up there, so I drove up to stay, and it was very nice. Went through a place called Gretna Green, which you might have heard of. It's quite famous. It's where people used to run away to get married. So there's a chapel there. You don't need to give notice. You just turn up. You get married. For centuries, it's become the place for people to run away to elope. In other words, to leave your family without any sort of permission to get married. Don't tell anyone. You go to Gretna Green, you can still get married there, and people still do. So it wasn't far from there. I went, stayed for a couple of days with her, and then said, I've never seen Edinburgh. So she says, what you want to do is you want to go on the train. Leave your car here, just walk to the train station, catch the train, you'll be there about an hour and a half. So I did, and I got on this train, and the train was chock-a-block. It was packed, it was crowded, it was full of people. So much so that in the carriage where I was, I had to stand for an hour and a half. Like this. All seats taken, people packed like sardines in a tin. This was a very modern train. I'll get to why this has soured me against Edinburgh in a second. This is a very crowded train, but it was a very modern train. And in the corner of the carriage was a toilet. Now, the only trains I've ever been on, they had an ordinary door. And if someone was in there, it said engaged on it. And if it said it was vacant, you open the door, you go in, close the door, lock it, do what you have to do. This wasn't like this. This was like something from a spaceship. As I watched, stood up, surrounded by people went up and pressed a green button, and the whole of the door, which was massive, opened up to reveal the toilet and the sink and a little mirror inside. It was amazing. So I watched a few people do this, thinking, right, I don't want to make a fool of myself and not realize how to open the door or what I'm doing. So I watched a few people do it. And with 20 minutes to go in my journey to Edinburgh, I thought, I'm going to try this out. So I, excuse me, went down the train, stepping over people, trying to get past. Got to the toilet door, and there was the green light flashing. It was vacant. Pressed that button. It opened, and there was this modern toilet. And, amazing for me. I've never seen anything so modern at all. So I went in, and there was a red button. Pressed that red button. Shut off the carriage. This is marvellous. Walked over, and it was quite a large area. I think they make them so people with wheelchairs and disabilities can easily get in. So I went over, stood in front of the toilet, lifted the seat, and started doing what I needed to do. I was having a wee. Halfway through, the door opened. There must have been 50 people who were bored, just stood and think, all now turning to watch me. I don't know about you, Lewis, but once I've started, I can't stop. So there's a woman on the other side who's pressed the button, and she's apologising. She's trying to get the door to shut. It won't shut. Eventually it closes. I finish, wash my hands. Face red as a beetroot. That's when I walked back to the door and I realised there is 2 buttons on the inside. The red one to close it and a little yellow one to lock it. Why on earth is there 2 buttons? There should just be 1 button. If someone's in, they want that locked. But there was 2. So then I had the wonderful experience of going out back into the carriage of all these people and then standing for 20 minutes until the train arrived in Edinburgh. So I wasn't in the best of moods.
By the way, I've got to just butt in and jump in because I know exactly the toilet that you're talking about. And it's not just limited to like Scotland. We've got them in Leeds as well, in different parts of England. And it's usually one of these carriages where you haven't got the normal seats, but you've got the ones that are like fold down for people to sit on. And it's often where you've got people who have their bikes as well because there's more storage space. But obviously, if the train is chock a block and it's packed, then all of these people will be all together. And it is very slow. So both when you're opening it and when you're closing it, the door will slide across really slowly. So sometimes you're waiting as it's closing and you're like almost waving at people. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna do my business now. Um, all right. 10 seconds later, phew, now I can lock it. And it's happened to me as well, where somebody has pressed the button whilst I was like, maybe not midway, maybe not in the middle of the action, but I was maybe just about to, or I was just finishing. And it's like, oh, sorry, yeah, I'll be done in a second. But in your case, you were in full flow with a packed train, people staring at you. And I'm sure they were trying to be polite and like,
No, they weren't.
looking
They were
away.
laughing.
They were cracking up. They were laughing their asses off. So I feel your pain. I feel your pain, and it is a little bit like a spaceship. And I understand why you were probably not in the best of moods after this public embarrassing moment. But surely, when you arrived in Edinburgh, you'd see that the architecture's amazing. The city looks very nice. Scottish people, they have a bit of a reputation for maybe not being the happiest bunch, but they're very, very cheerful and funny if, you actually have a conversation with them. So
Mm.
you were in a bad mood. You were a bit grumpy, a bit moody after this embarrassing moment. But then you got to Edinburgh and you still didn't like it?
Right. As my friend had told me, the train was definitely the way to go because the train station is right in the center
She
of the
set you
city.
up.
So yeah, it was no, it was marvelous, really. I got off the train and I've thought about this and talked this over with other people who love Edinburgh and trying to think what it was that I really didn't like about it. And it's a very impressive city. There is no doubt. I found the architecture very dark. I mean, they use granite in a lot of their buildings, and it's a dark granite. Um, it was an overcast day, so it was dark anyway. So it looked a bit like Gotham City from the Batman movies. It was a
Mhm.
little bit dark. So I wasn't overly impressed with that. I'm sure on a bright summer's day, it would look completely different. I didn't like how much they'd given themselves over to tourism.
Mhm.
It struck me that almost every shop was selling shortbread, which is a Scottish biscuit with and tartan was everywhere. You know, the tartan colours, the little square patterns. Every busker, street entertainer that we saw, well, it was someone playing bagpipes and wearing a kilt, which is
Mhm.
the Scottish men sometimes wear this traditional kilt. Um, and I thought it wasn't real. It felt like Disney had created a movie of a city. This is what it would look like. And I wanted to see real Edinburgh. So I decided I'd go and see the castle. And the castle is on the top of a hill.
Mhm.
Well, I got to the top of the hill and it's quite steep, this hill. So I thought, well, before I go in, I'll go and have a cup of coffee. So I stopped a Scottish person. Now, wherever I go, people are friendly. I don't get this. Oh, I went to Paris and people weren't very friendly. I've been to Paris lots of times. Everyone's friendly with me. Yeah, I've been to New York. Everyone's friendly there. I think if you're friendly, people usually are friendly. You talk with a smile. You've got a nice face. You smile at people. They're friendly, aren't they? Everywhere.
Mhm.
So found a nice gentleman come towards me, and all I wanted to do was say, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the nearest Starbucks is, please?" I was not prepared for such a strong accent, and I'm good at understanding accents. And he was as broad an accent as you could ever hear. So I said, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the nearest Starbucks?" See, I was like, "Well, I teach foreigners English. What language is this you're talking to me? You know? Oh, I just smiled and went, "Oh, thanks," and carried on my way. Decided to miss Starbucks out, go straight to the castle. The queue to get in the castle was estimated at 1 hour, 45 minutes. It was
Ugh.
so long. I walked back to the station. I went into the cafe. I bought myself a cup of coffee while I waited for the train out. I was actually in Edinburgh, a grand total of 2 hours. So, no, it wasn't for me. I had a bad experience there. That's not to say you shouldn't visit, because you should. Everyone I've ever spoken to says it's the best place in the world. Just wasn't for me.
No, I mean, fair enough. It seems like your experience, you were maybe a little bit unlucky with having this guy who had the thickest accent ever. And it just goes to show that for many students and people who struggle with different British accents, I think a Scottish accent is known for being the most complicated to understand. Because, of course, you are a Scouser. People say that the Liverpudlian accent is very tricky, not as tricky as Scottish. We have
No.
Geordies as well, people from Newcastle. People say that it's very difficult to understand them. And they might be right, but it's still easier than Scottish. And it's interesting because usually people do say that Edinburgh is kind of a posher version of Scotland, and Glasgow is like the real Scotland, which I've never
Yes.
actually been to Glasgow, so I can't really comment on this. But I know from friends, I have a Glaswegian friend, and she's got a very, very thick accent. It's a very nice accent, but it's very, very thick. And I had assumed that in Edinburgh, it wasn't the case, that people usually have a very kind of easy, neutral Scottish accent where you can tell that they're Scottish, but it's not that obvious. So maybe you just got unlucky. It wasn't your day, clearly.
It wasn't my day. That's it. It wasn't my day. Maybe this was a Glaswegian who had decided to have a little visit to another city.
Just to
Who
ruin your day.
Just to ruin my day, yeah. So go on, let me ask the question back to you then. Where have you been where people have told you, you've got to visit there, it's marvelous, it's wonderful, and you've got there and thought,
You see, I was thinking whilst you were speaking of my own answer, because maybe I'm not very well traveled in the United Kingdom, because I haven't been to all of these very, very typical tourist attraction cities. I've never been to Oxford, I've never been to Cambridge, I've never been to Bath. I've never been to these very, very famous places. Brighton. I haven't been to Brighton either. So the only city that I could think of that I visited and I didn't like, and I was only there for a few hours to go to like the open day for the university when I was making up my mind and weighing up my options of where I was going to do my degree. And of course, I visited Newcastle, I visited Manchester, I visited Liverpool, where in the end I went. And I also visited Birmingham. And when I went to Birmingham, maybe it was just a dark day. It was wet, cold, windy. I went with my mum. And as we were driving in around the outskirts, I just didn't see that many nice buildings. I don't know. And then when I looked around the university was beautiful. But it was so far out from the rest of the city. And in my mind, I was thinking, I want to live city life because I'm from a kind of town which is on the verge between countryside and city. We kind of have the best of both worlds. So my imagination of going to university was a place like Liverpool or Manchester or Newcastle or even Leeds, where the university is like built into the city. Whereas with Birmingham, it was on the outskirts, a big campus, kind of like what you imagine when Americans go to college, to university, where you have this campus life and you
Yes.
have a separate university city to the rest of the normal city. So that looked nice, but it wasn't what I was after. And then at the end of the day, just to kind of make sure that I had no doubts about my decision, we were wandering around Birmingham city centre, and I was just looking around like, I don't really see myself here. It feels very kind of normal and very industrial, and not many like nice old buildings. And then you have this whole thing about canals, but even around the canals, it was just like, okay, it looks all right, but we've got the Leeds Liverpool Canal. I'm used to having canals around me. So I don't have such strong feelings as you do with Edinburgh, because maybe I wasn't as unlucky as you were. But Birmingham just, it didn't appeal to me. And from that day, now, if I have to choose a city in the UK that I say I don't like, it would be Birmingham. But Birmingham's not a very, very touristy city anyway. People usually go to, well, maybe go to university, go shopping if you're from the surrounding area. There's not that much to see as far as I'm aware. But then
Can I
the other
say,
places, go on.
sorry, can I say, I guessed Birmingham. When you were
Yeah.
leading up to that and you said, well, I was trying here, I thought he's not going to like Birmingham. And I was absolutely right because I don't either. And just to let people know, Birmingham's the second city of England. After London, it's the next biggest city. I have friends who go there all the time shopping, absolutely love it. I know people who have moved there and love it. Oh, I go down there just to see exhibitions because it's where the National Exhibition Centre is.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of Birmingham either.
You see, it's comparable with Manchester because Manchester is maybe a little bit smaller. And Manchester's not known for being the most beautiful city either. But I feel like it's got something. Manchester's kind of cool. And you've got lots of young people because of the universities. You've got the music scene. You do have a little bit more in terms of architecture as well. And then if you're in Manchester, you're in a very strategic location because it is kind of like the capital of the north of England. And you've got Liverpool, just 45 minutes train. You've got Leeds, about an hour's train. So it's a very useful place to visit and have as like a base if you're traveling around the north of England. But what I was going to say is that given that I haven't been to Bath, Oxford, Brighton, and Cambridge, I probably should and just see for myself what it's like. Because a lot of people do say that these are amazing cities, that they're beautiful, historic, worth visiting. So, have you been to these places? I assume so. And if so, do you like them all or not so much?
I I used to have an unusual job working for the British government, and so they would send me to these places. Sometimes just for one day, sometimes like in Scotland for a few hours, sometimes for up to 6 weeks. And I once worked in Bath for 6 weeks. What I can tell you about it is it certainly has some beautiful places. It's famous because the Roman Empire, they took over the city and created these baths, public baths, which is what it's named after. And they're a sight worth seeing. But I think in 6 weeks, I don't think I met an actual person from Bath.
Hmm.
It's so full of tourists, particularly Americans. That's all I seemed to speak to for 6 whole weeks. It was almost refreshing to hear when someone said when I'd say, "Where are you from?" and they'd say, "Oh, I'm local." Just never saw it. If you want to see a real Roman city that's far more interesting, in my opinion, go to Chester. Chester is a walled city, so the Romans built big fortifications all around it. A lot of them are still there. It's a beautiful little city. It's got all the old shops that over the centuries have been built and preserved. in my opinion, it's a nicer city if that's the type of thing that you want to see.
And then with Oxford and Cambridge, of course, because of the universities, these are well known, famous, world renowned. Are you a fan of either of them? Would you say they are
Um,
worth visiting?
I'm a Cambridge boy, so I quite like Cambridge. Um, I haven't been for a few years, and I was talking to a student who's moved there and is studying in Cambridge University. And I was reminiscing about places I used to go and did they go. And I said, and of course, you always just take a bicycle and get round because that's what we did. And they said, you never see a bicycle now in Cambridge. It's all little electric scooters. All the
Mhm.
students have a little electric scooters. And I was shocked. I was disappointed. We used to have bicycles, 6 chained together everywhere. And now modern times, modern times.
And a nice verb you use there, reminisce. So you were reminiscing, which is kind of like talking about while remembering the good old days, so to speak. So right now I'm back home at my mum and dad's. Whenever I meet up with my friends and we're catching up, we're reminiscing, saying, do you remember little Jimmy? Well, he's just had twins. Like, do you remember when he used to always fall over in class? Little Jimmy. So I'm reminiscing about the good old days.
Nice. It's perhaps a good time to say that if anyone's struggling with some of the natural language we're using, the expressions, the words, any of the vocabulary, that we're going to put a guide to what we're saying in the description of this video. I'll include the full transcript of what we said, an explanation of the words, and a little quiz so you all can test your knowledge.
Perfect. So yeah, that will be in the video description. And just to let you know as well that Steve and I, we plan on doing regular conversations throughout this year, once or twice per month. So if you have any suggestions of topics that you'd like us to discuss and waffle on about, then let us know in the comments because we'd be more than happy just to have a chat because this is almost like a bit of therapy for us, isn't it, Steve?
It absolutely is. Back to the subject, I've got another question for you,
Go on,
Lewis.
shoot.
Tourist attractions. People come here to work, people come here to live, to the UK, I mean. Tourist attractions, of course, they're going to see things like Big Ben. Of course, they're going to see the Edinburgh Castle. We know that. Have you ever been to a tourist attraction and been disappointed?
I think I have quite a lot, but not so much in England or in the United Kingdom. Going back to Edinburgh Castle, yes, I did go, and luckily when I went, there wasn't such a long queue, so I didn't have to wait that long, and it was nice, but meh. Like it was nice, but it wasn't amazing. I got to see the crown jewels, and there were people taking photos, and it was all right. It was nice, but usually I'm a bit stingy, a bit tight fisted. And when I see how much it costs to go to certain tourist attractions or enter certain museums, and the fact that you have to wait such a long time, I just think, well, I can't really be bothered. And usually, when traveling, you get to see the real city just by walking around, stopping in different shops, different pubs in particular. If I'm abroad, I'll try to go to nice streets and neighborhoods and markets. But like when I go to Paris, I never go to the Louvre. Whenever I go to Rome, I don't go into the Colosseum because maybe I should, granted, but I think usually these places look better from outside, and I'm not a very cultured person. And when they try to charge you an extortionate amount to be inside, I'm like, would it be better to spend that money on having a nice meal? And that's the conclusion that I often come to. So that's maybe my own problem, but usually I decide that it's not worth paying to go inside any of these huge tourist attractions. But what about you, Steve, in the UK or elsewhere? Have you ever thought, oh, what a rip-off, I paid 40 quid and it's rubbish?
Absolutely. Stonehenge,
You know, the pillars.
the pillars, the big stones, world famous. I wouldn't have made a trip there on my own. However, I'd been sent to do a couple of days' work in Wiltshire, where Stonehenge is. It was maybe a 20-minute drive. So I finished my work, had a quick bite to eat, and with my assistant, we jumped into the car and I said, let's go to Stonehenge. This is a chance not to be missed. So we drove up to Stonehenge. And first of all, £31.50 each to get in to see these stones. £31.50. I thought it was free. I thought this is a British monument. Why wouldn't it be free? So, having come all that way, paid the money, in we went. Up a path, and suddenly there it is, the stones. Not as big as you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
Really, not as big as you'd think. And round the stones, a good way around the stones, maybe 50 meters out, is a small barrier. It's made of rope, like what you might see in a bank to keep the queue in line.
Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Hello, Chris.
Is this barrier. And to stop you getting to the stones, I'm a very tactile person. I like touching things. So I wanted to get up to the stones, up close and personal. I wanted to touch them. So the pair of us, me and my assistant, walked around the far side. And I said, I'm going for it. And I jumped over this rope and I ran up to the stones, took a selfie with me right by the stones. And when I put my camera away, I looked out and I could see this oldish gentleman. He must have been 60 or 70 in a uniform, shouting on his walkie-talkie. And can we just have a minute here to say how great a word walkie-talkie is? That's just it describes the radio perfectly. A walkie-talkie. He's running towards me in his uniform and he's shouting, I need assistance. I need assistance. And he's out of breath. His face is red. And I'm looking behind me to see what's happening. Who's he running to? And I realize he's running towards me. So I said, it's okay. You don't need assistance. It's just me. I was taking a photograph. Oh, you can't do that. 2 other security guards come running from different directions, all very old. So I'm like, seriously, I'm walking out. Don't worry about it. No. They come up, they took me by the arms and they frog marched me, which means one is either side. This old man's wheezing on the radio saying, it's all right, it's all under control now. He's being escorted. I'm saying, are you all right? I think you should have a sit down. They escorted me to the exit. My assistant is laughing her socks off. She thinks this is the funniest thing she has ever seen. And they throw me out and say, you're not welcome here. And I said, I've paid my money. I want my money back. I've been in 5 minutes. No, you're banned. That's it. So Stonehenge, there are other stone circles in the area. They're better. They're nicer. You can go up to them and they are free. I wouldn't recommend Stonehenge to anyone.
It sounds like you're a bit of a rebel, you know?
If I don't see the need for a rule, no, I'll bend that rule.
You see, I haven't been to Stonehenge either, but I definitely wouldn't be paying 31 quid for it. And it just feels like you can see these things all over the country. Random countryside, moors and hills. You'll have different like stone structures or like rocks on the floor. Of course, they might not be as big or as uniform as the ones that you've got in Stonehenge, but it looks maybe cool from a distance. You can have some nice photos of it if there's a nice sunset as well. But that's about it. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing to actually learn, really. It's just stones in a circular structure. So, meh, it doesn't really appeal to me, to be honest.
No.
But on that note, I think we're going to have to call it a day because we've got people coming and going.
We do. We do. And we haven't even got to the other countries. Well, we've done Scotland, but we haven't talked about Northern Ireland. We haven't talked about Wales. We haven't talked about our favourite places to go. We need part 2, Lewis. We
Part
need
2.
part 2.
Coming soon, part 2. Let's get into the nitty gritty, as I said at the beginning. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for watching, for listening. Don't forget to check out the link in the description in case you want to see all of these explanations of advanced words we've been using throughout the conversation. And yeah, Steve, a pleasure as always. Thanks so much.
Pleasure's all mine, Lewis. I'll see you next time. Cheerio, everyone.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.